Welcome to DraftKings running back analysis for Week 13. I'm Jason Gilbo, JGilbo11. With me is Russell Clay at Russell J Clay. You took a look at DK running backs this week, cash game, GPP, and value options. There seems to be quite a bit of value in terms of backs, but there's also some good high-priced ones. Where are you kind of leaning towards this slate in terms of lineup construction? You like paying up or you like kind of diving down?
Can you hear this?
Yes, I can.
That's my beard. If you can see my hair, it's shiny. That's not because I washed my hair. It's because of the dandruff. Um, but I like paying up once again this week. I think you can look at David Johnson, Le'Veon Bell, and Melvin Gordon and feel pretty good about it. And I also am going back to the well with Brandon Cooks. I'm not letting 1 week phase me. I don't think that's a very good strategy for DFS to let 1 week push you off a guy. So I like that matchup again, like Julian Edelman. I like those 6K range guys that you can kind of fit in if you pay up at running back and pay down quarterback, tight end, and defense. So that's kind of the way I'm moving. But I mean, obviously there are some decent pay downs. I don't love the values. I wrote up Jeremy Hill and Wendell Smallwood, but I don't love the value running backs, especially anybody below them. It's just kind of ugly.
Yeah, I mean, it's not particularly great plays, but in terms of, fitting in Drew Brees or Big Ben or Antonio Brown, if you want to get those guys in, I mean, that's really what it's here for.
Yeah, no doubt.
But first cash game running back here, David Johnson, 9,500, taking on Washington. I mean, in terms of just consistency and all-around performance, I mean.
When was the last time a running back was 9,500? Has to have been years.
I can't even remember.
Jamal Charles never got this expensive.
I don't even know Bell, like when he was healthy or not suspended, was 9,500.
Yeah, I don't think he ever got this high. David Johnson just having an incredible season. There's no debating that he just gets the ball. Like, he just gets the ball and he does awesome things with it every time, whether it's out of the backfield, whether it's running the ball. Carson Palmer has an eye for him in the red zone, out of the backfield. Against this Washington group, I just don't see how they contain him for 4 quarters. I don't see how anyone contains him for 4 quarters. Matchup is irrelevant. It's just him. He is the offense. He's going to get 30 touches a game, and you just trust it at this point.
I mean,
it's a lot like Russell Westbrook, honestly.
And folks, you're not going to get much better analysis than he's going to get the ball and he's going to do awesome things with it.
I mean, I challenge you to find a more descriptive way to describe what he's done this year.
I think at this point, week 13, you just simply need to put that David Johnson's good, and that's it.
I could say, he has 1,600 total yards and 11 touchdowns or whatever he has, and is on pace for like 90 receptions and basically outpacing DeAndre Hopkins. And, that's cool. But I mean, we could just be pretty straightforward and say, he's going to get the ball and he's going to be awesome with it. I mean, this, I got on Chris Wessling before the season, for comparing him to Marshall Faulk. And, like, he's having a Marshall Faulk type season. Like, he's going to be over 2,000 yards, 15 to 17 touchdowns. Not Marshall Faulk 28 touchdown season, but I mean, he's bordering on, pretty much Hall of Fame numbers right now.
Yeah, I mean, he's been stellar. Looking at Melvin Gordon here for quite a bit cheaper. I mean, this is usually where we find the running backs. 7,200, taking on Tampa. It seems to me like Vegas and game flow kind of sets up for a good Melvin Gordon type game, especially with all the banged out wide receivers.
I don't understand what this pricing is. Why is he so low?
They do it for you.
I don't understand, though. Can I get some respect? Can I get some respect on Melvin Gordon's name, please? The hell is this? I mean, like, he's averaging 21 points per game. Like, he had a bad week last week and he got 13 DK points. So what's going on here? Why is he 7,200? What is the problem here? What is the problem here? He needs to be 8K, if not 8,500 every week, especially in a good matchup like this one.
Yeah, I mean, FanDuel obviously the pricing is different, but he's a top 3 or 4 price back.
I don't understand this. He's going to get 25 touches a game. He's not quite David Johnson in terms of ability or touches or really, anything, but he is sort of in that same role where he's going to get the bulk of the carries. So
Yeah, I mean, I think in terms of a touches, he's a safe option. And Tampa's, I think their defense is going to come around and be pretty good. I don't think last week is something you're going to see consistently. And I think at a home matchup with Tampa going cross country at home in this kind of type of game that I see kind of playing out.
yeah, and I think the talent concerns are pretty much gone. Obviously, averaging 4 yards per carry now, getting consistent usage in the receiving game. That obviously buoyed what could have been a really bad last week. So, he's playing well, and I think that's going to continue to happen. Tampa Bay isn't a bad front seven in terms of run defense. They give up big plays, but overall, they're pretty good. I think Melvin beats the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in the receiving game more so than the running game this week.
Yeah, and his red zone usage is pretty much unlike most backs.
Anyone. Yeah, still leading the league in red zone rushing attempts at 49. Leading, he's second in rushing yards in the red zone behind Zeke Elliott, whose red zone numbers are ridiculous. I mean, he only has 32 red zone rushing attempts and he has 125 yards. Like, he's averaging 4 yards per carry in the red zone. Like, that is nuts.
Yeah. Well, what's Todd Gurley averaging?
Oh,
does he even get in the red zone? I guess he would have to get in the red zone for that to even register.
He's not. Yeah, I don't think he's even in the top 15 of red zone rushing attempts, which is something else. But
yeah.
Anyway,
it's surprising yet not surprising.
What could have been?
But we're not here to get you going on Todd Gurley. We're here to talk about your running back takes. Jeremy Hill, GPP pick, 4,300, taking on Philly. A Philly defense that struggles on the road. And we saw good kind of flashes out of Hill last week against a really tough matchup.
And shout out to Theo Riddick, really the only player that changed in this article this week. So shout out to him. I'm playing this week like last week didn't happen. I still like all these players. Jeremy Hill got bailed out by the receiving game, 6 catches for 60 yards. Obviously, you love to see that. The Ravens are an incredible run defense. I saw a tweet by Football Outsiders the other day saying that this 2016 Ravens team actually has a better rush DVOA than the 2000 Ravens defense, which, I mean, that in itself, just being in the same realm as that defense is, obviously amazing. Clearly, they don't have the pass defense, but for Jeremy Hill purposes, when you're evaluating that, that's why he struggled last week. Against this Philly team at home, Philly much better at home than on the road, so they're traveling to Cincinnati here. Like Jeremy Hill, he got banged up, missed a series or two, so I think that kind of affected his total touches at the end of last week's game. At 4,300, sign me up.
Yeah, I think, Rex Burkhead did outsnap him, but I don't think that's going to be the case this week in a decent matchup here. Theo Riddick, I mean, I like this call quite a bit, 5,800 in this game, which is just going to be wild.
This is a Theo Riddick game.
Oh, yeah.
If I've ever seen one, I mean, I've been watching this guy all year. If there was ever a Theo Riddick game, this is it. He's already had, you kind of wonder where the tipping point for him is, like where he starts to regress off these big games he's been having. Because, he just gets so few touches for, like, what he produces. But in this matchup, you kind of think, like, okay, well, I think his floor here is, like, honestly, 12 to 14 DK points. I think he's going to get 6 to 8 catches in this type of game. So I love this play at 5,800. You're really getting a good deal compared to a lot of the guys in that 6K range. You love the correlation with Breeze, Cooks, Michael Thomas. If you want to play that, you're obviously playing him. If you're playing Stafford, I think that's kind of really important. If you're looking for stacking options for Stafford this week, you want to look at Golden Tate too. But I mean, Eric Ebron is a really awkward situation right now because I don't know what to do with him. I feel like, he's kind of an interesting play, but at the same time, like, last week obviously got the 0. 2 weeks ago, really close to a 0. Take out that one drive where he had that 60-yard catch and the rushing touchdown, and he had a horrible week there too. So I don't quite know what's going on with his usage. So I think Riddick's really the stacking option right there.
I do too, and I talked about Stafford a little bit yesterday when we were doing quarterbacks, and I don't like him in terms of a value standpoint, but I think when you're looking at the full stack, Marvin Jones isn't expensive, Golden Tate's not expensive, Theo Riddick's not expensive, Eric Ebron's not expensive. I guess when you put those two together, like you're not going to play a naked Stafford, so you're just going to use them in a stack. Yeah. So I mean,
Yeah,
I guess I'll kind of retract my comments that the value for that stack isn't that bad.
it's not bad. But you just really, if you do play Stafford, you have to play Saints. Like
Oh yeah.
sometimes it's an option. It's not really an option. If you think Stafford's going to do well, then the Saints are going to have to be scoring and he's going to have to be in comeback mode. So you need that Michael Thomas and Cooks in there, potentially both of them.
Well, the thing is, I mean, this game should be the one that pushes him to actually throw for over 300 yards because he hasn't been forced to do much of that.
No,
he takes care of the ball,
hasn't.
220, maybe a touchdown, maybe two, and that's it.
Yeah.
This is the first real upside matchup we see.
Agreed. So I just think Riddick's a really good play. Any lineup, even if you're not stacking Stafford, but if you are stacking, that game, I think he's a really important piece.
Yeah, definitely. And then you look at your value running back this week, Wendell Smallwood, 4,300, taking out Cincinnati, who, I mean, obviously has really fallen back on the defensive department this year.
So I'm pretty pumped because exactly what I wanted happened, which is he didn't have a great game against the Packers, which everyone was assuming was going to be a big game. They brought up a guy off the practice squad. They're kind of looking at Sproles still as the starter. I think Smallwood's got a great opportunity to have one of those Ryan Matthews stat lines where, 70 and a touchdown, 70 yards and a touchdown, or, I think, you can look at some receptions. You can look at maybe 2 touchdowns in this game, depending on, if things get best case scenario for Smallwood. So 4,300, I think he has a really high ceiling still. With 15 to 18 touches in his range of outcomes. So against this Bengals defense that hasn't been that great this year, I think he's a great gamble as a tournament punt. Wouldn't get, cash exposure to him, but in terms of, ceiling at that price, I think he's right there with Jeremy Hill.
Yeah, I think I mean, combining the two, I think Smallwood's probably going to be the lower round out of Hill just because Hill has more name recognition, probably a little bit, obviously a little bit more usage in that offense. So kind of a good swerve if Hill, really doesn't quite have the receiving game, but Smallwood does have a good day and gets that touchdown.
And then I'll ask you, did you see any values below this? I mean, I know Krista Michael is in his second week with the Packers, but I don't feel comfortable going lower than this. And usually there's at least 1 or 2 guys where I'm like, oh, okay, I'll fire him in there. But I just don't see anything.
I don't think so. I mean, because usually like at times we'll get like a Duke Johnson that you could toss in there.
That's usually the route I go, but it's just like, I don't.
And I think with the Packers, with the Patriots using 3 running backs, it takes Deion Lewis really out of play.
Yeah, you can't you can't use Deion Lewis right now. It's just not enough touches. Even if he gets a touchdown, you don't know if that's going to be enough. So,
because him and James White are fairly cheap, but yeah, I don't know.
I mean, you just go through Jeremy Langford's not getting enough touches. Shane Vereen's going to be coming off the IR soon here, but not yet. Chris Ivory's banged up against Denver. I know, Denver's been weak against the run, but I don't really love that. I'm not playing Paul Perkins. I'd love to play Yeldon, but I can't do it. the line, there's just nobody here. Matt Jones has been a healthy scratch. Jalen Richard had that one receiving touchdown, but he's not really a factor. It's just all trash. So
I'll ask you a question here in terms of two guys that I like as pay up options as well. And you might, I'll probably ask this question before someone does in the comments anyway, but Jordan Howard against San Francisco, 6,900.
they've been playing better. And I know Miami didn't have 3 offensive linemen last week, but they've been playing better the last few weeks. Are they good? No. Is Jordan Howard still a great option? Yes. But I would err on the side of going 100% Jordan Howard. You know what I mean? Jeremy Langford's back. How many? Let's check that out for a second. Jeremy Langford not getting many touches, but you have to wonder how they're gonna. I know he's still getting snaps, so you have to wonder how they're gonna figure that out. I guess one more guy I would throw in there. You can throw in Darren Sproles at 44, and I think Tevin Coleman's an interesting tournament guy. Obviously got the rushing touchdown last week. Obviously showed the big play potential earlier this year against the Denver Broncos team. Coleman has huge upside for a cheaper price, but, I still prefer Hill.
Yeah, I definitely do too. I mean, it does seem like a pretty running back heavy week. I mean, I find like I like a lot, at least 10 options here. I mean, I don't mind like a Latavius Murray or
Who
LaShawn
was your
McCoy.
other guy? You're going to ask about McCoy or Bell or something?
Yeah.
McCoy? Yeah, he's a nice option. 7,800, very reasonable price. Obviously, we love what Buffalo's doing with the rushing game.
Yeah.
I mean, any of those top 3, I'm not going to tell you to not play, Bell, McCoy, whatever works for you, whatever works with the roster construction you're going for. And really, whatever fits with your value pieces. That's really how this week's going to play out. Because obviously, you want Bell and Johnson in every lineup.
Yeah, I mean that's the ideal thing, just like I would want $1 million, but
just like I want Marquise Lee, against
God.
number 1 pass defense because he's an absolute stud.
Let's save it for another pod. That's going to wrap things up with the DraftKings running back analysis for Week 13. If you want to head on over to read Russell's article on Week 13 DK running backs, it is up and you can check that out and check out the rest of our Week 13 content.